Welcome to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast.
Every week, they talk about the Vancouver Canucks with a fair amount of nonsense thrown in.
Sure, they're never the first with the news, nor the best connected, and definitely more off the rails than on.
But they've been talking puck the longest, and that counts for something, right?
So strap in for the longest running, best mediocre Canucks Hockey Podcast.
It's C4 with Chris and Anna.
Anna. Hi, Craig.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Craig.
Craig got here on time today.
I was kind of on time.
No, you were. So what our listeners don't know is often Anna and I will be like wrapping up dinner or whatever just before we're going to hit record on a Sunday. And we'll often message each other like, hey, do you mind if we take another, 5 minutes or 15 minutes, just scarfing down some chow or what have you. But Craig always shows up when we ask him to.
Yeah, he's good that way.
Yeah. If only Craig could produce and publish our episodes so they could come out on time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we still have human fallibilities, including busy jobs and or social events.
I completely forgot. So this episode that you're listening to will hopefully come out on time. But last week's episode, and the funny thing is in the show, I'm like, it depends on when you're going to be listening. It could be Monday, it could be Tuesday. Well, it definitely wasn't Monday because the show did not get published on the Monday. I forgot. I had a busy day, lots going on. And yeah, anyhow, we're here.
It happens.
Yeah. But
best mediocre.
Yeah, best mediocre. We have standards not to maintain.
Mhm.
Oh, speaking of this, best mediocre. So, you follow Stadium to Chinatown, the blog?
I've read it.
I don't think they're active.
Yeah.
Well, they did some guerrilla marketing for a podcast they had in their early days, like way back when. They had taken some business cards and stuck them into one of those plastic sort of like ad inserts in a washroom in Rogers Arena. The business card advertising their podcast had been in this thing for years. Like it was there in Rogers Arena, guerrilla advertising. It had never been removed until this year. It's no longer there.
On the one hand, I love that, but it doesn't fill you with confidence about how often washrooms get cleaned.
Well, I think it might be getting clean, but like the plastic sort of inserts where they'll stick like poster ads in or what have you, like a business card falling to the bottom. It's not the easiest thing to pull out of that. Like, let's be honest, like, who's walking around with like whatever tool you would need to get that.
The cleaner doesn't care about that.
No, not at all. So anyhow, talk about guerrilla marketing. That's an example of someone who did not have the best mediocre podcast, because best mediocre podcasts are too mediocre and too good at being mediocre to even consider doing something like that. Yeah. Instead, we have papered the entire British Isle with C4 stickers.
Yeah, that's it. Smart.
Yeah, totally. So why are we getting off the rails so quick? Well, it's again continued to be somewhat of a rough week for those fans of Vancouver hockey teams. Vancouver Canucks have continued their winless ways. Unfortunately, so have the Vancouver Goldeneyes. Though, in fairness to Vancouver, it was close. Like they did everything they could to potentially get a win. Can't say that about the Vancouver Canucks. But the biggest news is not with anything that has happened on the ice. It's what just happened off the ice with the Vancouver Goldeneyes. Big trade. So Anna and I are going to get into that as well. And I don't know what else we'll talk about. I still haven't watched Heated Rivalry. It's not, again, me avoiding. I will get to it. I'm just still hammering through all of my sort of regularly scheduled content. I'm binging Falling Skies. I'm on season 5. That's the last season. I'll probably be done that this week. And when that is done, then my sort of free TV time, I'll Heated Rivalry it up.
Yay.
Maybe next week we'd talk about it. Although I think might have a guest next week, so I don't know.
Yeah. So we'll see, but maybe.
Yeah, who knows? Anywho, what have you been up to this past week, Anna?
Not watching a lot of Canucks hockey, thankfully. The East Coast road trip
Horrible fan.
has kind of saved me from that. I still have watched some, unfortunately. But yes, saw 0 minutes live of the game against the Oilers, so that was pretty nice, I guess. I was eating a lovely dinner with friends instead. What about you?
I have not been able to watch the Canucks much either. Unfortunately, you're right. The Eastern road swing makes it difficult. And with my daughter in so many activities right now, Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, Fridays. So which game did I watch? Well, I got to watch them lose to the Sens. That was the closest game.
Yes.
Theoretically.
And I did watch more of that one. Yeah.
That was the game that you and I had suggested might have been a game that the Canucks could have gotten points out of. And for a brief period of time, it felt like they might, but alas, they didn't. So that was difficult. And then the Goldeneyes game against the Scepters, unfortunately, was too early in the day, again, with my daughter's activities. And so I missed it. Had it been later, I would have watched it. I would have chosen to watch the Goldeneyes over the Canucks anyway. But
yeah, that's for damn sure. Yeah, I was in a movie, so I only basically followed the first period. Yeah, I mean, it's Oscar season. They're about to announce the nominations, so I will be. That's going to be part of my time over the next month or so.
Putting in your fake ballots.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, and this sounds bad, but I run an Oscar pool every year at work, and I tend to win. Funny how that happens. Well, it's less crooked than the Academy.
Without that, let's dive into Rewind. So starting with what happened moments ago, and I say moments ago, but really it was a few moments ago before moments ago. The Vancouver Goldeneyes and the Ottawa Charge got together and they decided to make a deal. The Vancouver Goldeneyes have sent Michelle Cava, Brooke McQuigg, and Emma Greco to Ottawa, and in return, they're getting what I think I'm pronouncing as Anna Meisner, Anna Shokina, and Manon McMahon. I don't know enough, and I've conceded this, about the PWHL to suggest that this trade is extremely good for the Goldeneyes. Based on what I'm reading from others, the thought is that if there is a winner in the trade, it's probably the Ottawa Charge. It seems to me that this deal was more of a let's shake things up and we get better for the sake of the deal, not so much the sake of the players we're giving up and getting back in return. But do you have any further insight that you can contribute here, Anna?
Somewhat further insight, and this was someone reminded me in another Discord server, is that Emma Greco and Michelle Carver are married. So that might be part of why they're a package deal. I have to say...
That would be awkward if your
wife
partner
gets traded. Yeah. And you stay.
Yeah, right. Like that's a challenge.
Which I think happens in the WNBA. So I do respect the Goldeneyes and the Charge for getting that done. I will say I'm a little sad to see Michelle Carver go. She only had 1 goal but 4 assists, which, considering the Goldeneyes kind of scoring troubles, that's actually 5 points is not bad. Brooke McQuigg really didn't seem like she was settled in Vancouver in terms of her play. I do think she might be better off in Ottawa. That kind of goes to the shake-up argument, and I would say that about Emma Greco. Her game time has not been maximized, and I don't think her potential is. But on paper, you're looking at it as 3 Walter Cup winners going out the door. So, and getting back, you have experience. But Anna Meisner had 2 points last year. She's got 2 goals this year, so already doing better. But, there's not a lot of scoring coming back. And I know Brian Adolski has said either last week or the week before that like big priority for them is forechecking, and that's a big thing they need to get better at. And that does seem to be what's coming in. And they talked about grit, especially with Meisner and Meisner's play. That's something they want. I don't know if that's what Vancouver needs. Grit and like forechecking, I can understand, but yeah.
Well,
like you say, the shake-up part is interesting.
Yeah, I've talked about how it felt to me in watching them play, that there seemed to be, a lack of chemistry, but it started to turn where we were seeing some trust in each other. A trade like this shakes that up. Like you don't make a significant deal and expect that everyone who you bring in suddenly understands, accepts the system and is
system.
Completely integrated into that dressing room. I'm not suggesting that the roster as it is would look at the 3 new additions and say, you're not us. I mean, they're professionals, but there is going to be a period that one would think where there are some growing pains. I mean, you got to consider as well, the Goldeneyes, where they are in the standings.
Yeah, they're only ways up.
You can't really get much worse.
Yeah.
And they are, an expansion franchise. If this helps them then grow into what they could be next year, albeit asterisk, there will be an expansion and we're not entirely sure what that draft will look like.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what this is a plan for down the road.
Yeah, and obviously, like, it's not exactly been a settled team. Sarah Nurse has been absent until this past week. Same with Nina Job Smith. Obviously, Sarah Nurse did play the first game, but yeah, like, I guess Vancouver are kind of hoping to capitalize on that sort of change of Nurse and Joe Smith coming back. That might be a moment of acceleration, and or better time than that to make the splash. But yeah, I'll be super interested to see them play in person on Thursday, presuming all 3 get into the lineup.
Staying on the Goldeneyes, let's talk a little bit about the game against the Toronto Scepters. So this was a hard-fought game. It went into overtime. Toronto eventually scored the overtime winner. It was also a game where we saw the return of Sarah Nurse, and whether surprisingly or not, Vancouver seemed to be a much better team with Sarah on the ice than they had, obviously, with her off the ice since that home opener. There was a moment in time where Sarah did leave the ice during that game, which obviously had the collective fan base holding its breath for a amount of time. She did return. I have to sort of ask, though, that sort of occurred in the first game. We don't truly know what happened in that game. Sarah had been out as long as she was. Should we be concerned, Anna?
Well, I mean, it's so hard to say, but I will say, like, Sarah Nurse played that first game for Vancouver, clearly injured, and she's such a superstar that she didn't let that hold her back, but, like, clearly she played it because it was an important game in the, franchise history. We've got to expect that, considering how much the Vancouver Goldeneyes have been losing, and we still haven't seen Sarah Nurse till now, that they are being careful, I hope. But yeah, like the fact that she immediately got on the score sheet for Vancouver with offer tipping a shot from Nina Job Smith. So, like, obviously, impact players there.
Only like they hadn't. I don't think they had even announced the goal from the Scepters when Sarah Nurse scored, as is not even 30 seconds.
Yeah.
After that power play marker. But again, maybe I'm a little apprehensive because I don't think anyone would have thought
we've been burned before.
Sarah would have been out as long as she was, because she, I mean, we've talked about it. She, in that first game, she took some heavy contact. It hurt her. To your point, yeah, consummate professional, came out, finished that game. Might have been just running off pure adrenaline. And we've seen professional athletes where they're able to play through serious injury through the sheer will and amount of adrenaline in their system. When that all is gone, suddenly the body's like, well, hey, I've got broken bones or what have you. I think the question mark for me, though, is we truly don't know what the injury was. Like, it would be easier to say, oh, she broke a bone, because then there's a couple of things about broken bones. One, definitive time frame, right? Definitive time frame, it takes it to heal and then into rehab and return. You then sort of know what to sort of expect. In this particular scenario, I'm assuming it was soft tissue in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
That's a harder injury to sort of put into a cookie cutter time frame. And then there's also the question marks as to, we think this is how we think your body will be when you do return. She was talking about how when she was coming off the LTIR that, oh yeah, I've had a conversation with the doctors. But it was only last week where Adolski had said, yeah, we're thinking, maybe in the next few weeks. Right. So
yeah,
like there seems to be,
and I get that skepticism, but yeah, I mean, obviously she's more effective on the ice for Vancouver, but we want that long-term health to be prioritized as well. Yeah. What did you? Yeah, it was an interesting game overall. I thought, like, once again, like Mashma is just like MVP of the whole team.
Oh. She is good to stop 40 shots. The problem is that the Vancouver Goldeneyes are giving up more than 40 in most games.
And not scoring.
And yeah, it's slightly problematic. I figure that one out. But she is good to stop 40 shots in a game.
Yeah, she's very impressive. And that OT goal I thought was a really beautiful goal, so I can't put that at her door either.
Oh, but when your goaltender has stood on her head, as Mash continues to do game in and game out, it's hard to go and say, they scored, like, even in like I'm trying to think, was it New York where they scored that weird goal that, was it Mash in that? Anyhow, the point being is that you let in a bad goal, but you're stopping 40 other shots. I'm sorry. You need the run support, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, if your team is putting up 40 shots and the other goaltender is stopping them all, you can maybe say, you need to make that one save for us. But it's not like Mash is being asked to you got to make those 10 saves for us, right?
Yeah.
And that might even be an understatement considering how much puck she's been seeing. So, to your earlier sort of question, I didn't get a chance to see the entirety of the game because, again, I was out with my daughter's activities, watched some highlights. And that, to me, it was a good game from Vancouver. I actually hope, the caveat being I'm not entirely sure what the impact of this trade will be, that we are seeing the Goldeneyes really turn a corner. I talked about this last week, and I am really buying into what I'm starting to see. Will that mean that they'll make a significant run? I don't know. But I'm good for them being much more competitive game in and game out. And that's what I'm getting those vibes.
And honestly, more scoring is just what I want to see through the rest of the season. I'm not too concerned with what happens in the W column.
Speaking of what happens, though, you're going to be at the game on Thursday night when the Toronto Scepter come in to take on the Vancouver Goldeneyes at the Pacific Coliseum. The Vancouver Goldeneyes then head out to Denver to take on the Seattle Torrent in a takeover tour game. That's on Sunday. That game will be probably still underway when we get together to record. So we may not be able to share what we think of the game, but we'll be able to say, actually, no. It's Eastern.
No, it starts at 3, so I think we'll be good. Yeah, same time as the Canucks game.
I'm not watching the Canucks. So. That's clear. But looking at those two games, what are your vibes?
Obviously, Goldeneyes aren't unbeaten at home, but they lost to Montreal, who was a very strong team. They have Marie-Philippe Poulin. I see them, especially with that close game against Toronto, I do see them winning on Thursday, especially if Sarah Ness is back. And she has that extra motivation, given she was unprotected by Toronto, and that's the whole reason she's here. So yeah, I see Vancouver putting that away. And honestly, even Seattle, like, that's a very winnable game. Will they win both? I don't know. But they definitely,
Oh
like...
no, no fence sitting here, Anna. This show does not believe in a fence that's being sat
Okay,
upon.
sure. Vote 2 wins.
4 points. You heard it here first. And if Anna gets it wrong, feel free to send her dirty looks.
Sorry,
The
I
full-on
just
stink eye.
believe in women's sports, Chris.
Oh wow, way to throw it back at me and insinuate that I don't. No, okay. Before you said 4 points, I was actually going to go all out. And I'm like, I might be talking out of my league here, but I truly felt that Vancouver could beat the Scepter. We've seen them do this already a couple times in the season, where the Eastern team makes the trip out here and the Goldeneyes return the favor. I'm a little less confident against the Torrent. I'm not suggesting it's not possible. The Torrent have looked better than the Goldeneyes this season, but I'm buying what I'm seeing from Vancouver. 4 points. 2 games, 4 points. Look at that.
Good.
We're getting some dubs in the column. The team, though, that's not getting dubs in the column, who knows if they ever will again, the Vancouver Canucks. So we're not going to go through the entire week that was, because let's be honest, we'd be just complaining about everything. The Canucks lost to the Habs 6-3 in Montreal on Monday night. They lost 2-1 to the Sens Tuesday night. They lost to the Blue Jackets 4-1 on Thursday night. And they lost 6-0 to the Edmonton Oilers here at home Saturday night. Boy, am I loving this Vancouver Canucks hockey team.
Yep. That is franchise-tying record for losing streak. So, as you listen to this, they may be teeing up for number 11.
Yeah, so Vancouver, and I need to check myself here. I have been a supporter of the need to rebuild, and I need to appreciate that rebuilding teams lose games. Right. I'm not saying that they should be losing the way they are. That's where maybe I have the issue with, but they're going to lose more than they're going to win. When I look at what sort of has transpired this week, they've had moments where they've looked like a competitive team, but they've looked more frequently like a team who doesn't know how to be competitive. And that's the problem I have. Like they held a lead in Montreal. I mean, it was a short one, but they held a lead.
Yeah.
And then got that lead back, only to then decide, well, leads are for suckers. And that third period, the wheels fell off the bus.
Yes.
Bus skidded along the highway. It wasn't a pretty sight. It was over in the first minute, the third period.
Yeah, and I will say, like, against Ottawa, the Canucks should have won that game. Like, they obviously lost their head for less than a minute, but that was kind of enough to lose the game because they don't have the sort of scoring to turn it around.
Well, but notice a trend. They lose their head for a minute. They lost their head for a minute in the third period, game over. Lost their head for a minute against Ottawa in the second period, not quite game over, but eventually game over. The Vancouver Canucks, they lost on Thursday. That game wasn't really all that close. The Blue Jackets under Bones are just a good team suddenly.
I mean, quick sidebar on Rick Bowness would, like, obviously employed by his old buddy Gilman, who gave him a job quick smart. Was he on the market? Like,
Well, okay, we don't. If we are truly a rebuilding team, do we go out and get rid of the general who's helping lead the tank?
That's true. And I will say, like, and I read...
I wouldn't want to put Bones through that.
Yeah, and I read Wags' article about that, when and if the Canucks should fire Foot. I mean, I do agree with Wags that Foot systems aren't working. Like, it isn't just a personnel thing, and I do think personnel does suck, but, like, it's not the whole story. Yeah, I mean, to your point about the rebuilding team thing, I had Ray Ferraro this week saying, Canucks fans say they're ready for a rebuild, but then they're losing their heads. Which is fair, but also we've traded one player. Like, yes, Jim Rutherford said it's a rebuild, but like we need some more commitment.
It finally said it's a rebuild.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the mixed messaging. This is the thing that drives me nuts. There are fans, there are members of the media who go and say, "Oh, well, to use Ray's point, that the fans want to rebuild, but here they are losing their heads." We don't trust what we've been told because we have been fed BS for over a decade.
Yeah.
And so it's a trust issue. If this is a rebuild, which I genuinely believe it might be, you're right. One deal does not a rebuild make, especially when you spend a bunch of time saying, "Oh, we're going to do a hybrid rebuild. It's a hybrid retool, rebuild, reversion, reverberation." We don't use terms here. Call it what you want. Again, mushy words that tell us you're not really giving us the straight goods. But back to my earlier point, if you put a young team on the ice who's showing me potential and losing games, I can see the potential and I can get behind the potential. What I struggle with is just a uninspired game of hockey.
Also, and
that's what I'm seeing a lot of.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Like, I would say up until the Oilers game, Pedersen's been playing really well, so that's been encouraging, considering he's maybe one of the players we are kind of keeping around, although they're listening, so who knows. But, if it's a rebuild, like, why are you scratching Niels Höglander? Like, he's, one, I would say, been playing decently considering the injury and all of that. And it's just like, that's the player you want to put out on the ice, surely. Not say, like, damage his reputation.
We'll talk more about this in half full, half empty. I have some thoughts. This is
getting
where
ahead of myself here.
This is where the two worlds, I do agree, run into some level of conflict. There is what you want to rebuild and what you want to rebuild with. And right now, I think the Vancouver Canucks don't really know either.
Yeah, and I think that's fair.
Right? So there's a lot more to that. So we'll get into that in half full, half empty. But yeah, looking at how they've played, like, there have been sort of flashes of Petey. To his credit, he seems to have stepped up his ownership of sort of the post-game media scrums. Like, he's got an A. I think he understands.
Yeah. As
an alternate captain, he is responsible to be in that space. But what he's been saying has not been the combative, snarky PD.
Which we enjoy, but has its time and place.
We do. But yeah, right. Yeah. And he's giving us arguably some straight answers. And I maybe his time here in Vancouver could be coming to a conclusion in the future, because again, everyone is on the table apparently, and all conversations will be listened to. But I am liking what he's talking about, and I'm liking how, like, he's owning his space. I don't like the fact that we're at the point where we wanted him to score many goals and he can't. But I also have to give him credit for the fact that defensively he's been pretty darn.
Which has never really been in question, right? No. And on that note, I was very impressed with Connor Garland's after hours on Saturday, considering it came after that pretty terrible game and that whole 10 game.
Hey, Connor, you just got spanked. Tell us more about what it's like to be in Vancouver these days.
And I thought it was very mature, cool. the way he answered everything.
It had me thinking, Connor Garland does, like, hearing the story about his experience in Moncton and how I did not realize how successful he was.
Yeah.
With in the queue, But like the fact that there are only 2 players who have led the CHL in scoring in 2 consecutive seasons, Sidney Crosby, Connor Garland.
Yeah.
And he goes essentially, I mean, he didn't go undrafted, but when you're chosen in the 5th, you kind of were. That blows my mind. I mean, again, it's all because of his size. I mean, I'm sure there's other things that might have played into it, but darn well it's his size and the fact that the NHL views anyone under 6 feet as not being able to play.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so the Vancouver Canucks are currently at the precipice of setting its modern era losing skid record. And I say modern era because if we talk about winless, the Vancouver Canucks have actually had a longer skid. Currently, with the NHL as it works, they are technically in a winless skid too, because those 2 are actually 2 losses where they got the loser point.
Yeah.
If we look at the last 12, they've only got 1 win, so not too good. But if the Vancouver Canucks were to lose at home against the New York Islanders, they get to set a record as the consecutive losses in a row, which is not good. But I'm not entirely sure that the Canucks are in a good space to be taken on the Isles as it is. Looking ahead at their schedule, they got the Islanders on Monday at home. They got the Capitals on Wednesday at home. They've got the Devils on Friday at home. And then they have the Penguins on Sunday afternoon at home. 4 games. Any points?
Sure.
Optimism.
Any win? Yeah. I'm full of optimism. I'm not saying they get any wins, but some points. Yeah, maybe.
They get some points. Oh, okay. Okay, so where are they getting the points from?
I mean, you'd have to, like, I don't know if the Devils are in full tailspin mode, but they're not as much anymore, but still, they're only a couple weeks out from that 9-0 pasting by the Islanders. So sure, point against New Jersey.
Okay, so that was actually where I was just going to suggest that the Vancouver Canucks get a point, only because Jersey has had some problems in recent times. I had said the same about the Senators, but aside from the fact that the Senators had a really bad Saturday, they seem to have no issue handling the Canucks, days earlier. So, I suggest a point against the Devils. Pittsburgh, not a bad team right now. Capitals, not a bad team right now. Islanders, not a bad team right now, though they'll be likely without Bo Horvat. I believe, still nursing the injury he suffered about a week ago.
Which we're still hoping, obviously, gets him better for the Olympics, but we don't. You never know. The Wednesday game is the Pride game, the Canucks Pride game. I would love Canucks to win that one just because if they're still in a tailspin, it is like
personnel on the Capitals.
Yeah, I guess that too, and it's DC. Although they just had their Pride game and I think they handled it pretty well. They just also had the Takeover Tour, which set an American
sold out the barn.
Yeah, women's hockey record, and I saw some cool social media stuff they did with. They obviously had Dubois on the Victoire, Dubois on the Capitals, so that was cool. And
Little Thrills.
Poulin.
Years ago, before the podcast, the Washington Capitals were a very progressive organization.
Yeah, well, they've had some good players from that perspective come through.
They've been less so in the modern era, and I kind of wonder if that has more to do with the organization or the players who carry considerable weight that happen to exist on the roster. One person, and again, a little bit off the rails, Tom Wilson.
Yeah.
There's many reasons to dislike Tom Wilson. But the guy can be pretty progressive in some of his positions, which is surprising.
Yeah, and I was having a mind blank just then when I talked about the progressive players the Capitals had because I couldn't remember Braden Holtby's name. I'm sorry to Canucks legend Braden Holtby. But yeah, he's been very vocal about pride and all kinds of topics. So yeah, especially when he played on the Capitals. So
you and I are going to take a break. You're listening to the C4 Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Anna, Chris, and Greg.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on it.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He's going to get a lot of power play time, and yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
I like how you wrote this in the rundown, and I'm kind of surprised it wasn't your suggested title. When to shoot yourself in the foot, to fire or not to fire.
when I
Was
wrote
that
it,
just low-hanging fruit, and you're like, no, I can't put that as a title?
No, because I thought of it when I wrote it after I came up with the title, and I said, should I switch that out as the title? So, to you.
No. Well, in fairness, algorithms these days look at a combination of those words in a very poor light.
That's true.
Unfortunately,
That is true.
tone does not get conveyed in text, so I look at that and maybe come to the conclusion, maybe not the best. But that said, what we're talking about is Adam Foote as the Vancouver Canucks head coach, and whether or not it's time for him to find an external opportunity. We talked a little bit about it in Rewind. I'm of the opinion, no, you don't fire the general when you're looking to tank. I also view it as the guy you want to keep around into his final year of a contract because it helps you sell ownership on not having to pay more money for something that could impact your ability to, have them understand the rebuild will probably cause a little pain. I also believe that if you're in a rebuild, you're probably going to have to find a coach who's willing to accept that that's the case and that they might not be around to see it through. Not going to get the best options. Yeah. I do concede, though, there is one scenario as to which I would issue Foote his walking papers, and that's if I catch wind that Manny Malhotra might be getting an offer somewhere else, because I do not want to lose Manny.
Yeah, and 100%. My instinct is especially when I first just saw that Daniel Wagner article I referenced, was, well, hell no, don't fire Foote. And then there is the argument of one, he's losing, which is great. And you don't want to necessarily bring a new coach into that environment when you're still in the middle / at the beginning of a rebuild, retool, whatever. But at the same time, do you want, what effect does that environment have on the players? That's one thing. Two, are you missing out on a coach like Manny Malhotra who might end up
he may not accept an offer to be promoted to head coach in Vancouver. Though I don't know what the terms of his contract in Abbotsford happens to be. Maybe there's a, hey, we can promote you type thing.
It's been a tough year in Abbotsford for lots of injury-related reasons, both in his own lineup and the Canucks lineup in Vancouver. And then the only thing which is the other part, other issue that we want to talk about is, are Adam Foote's decisions, coaching decisions and deployment decisions, making the front office's job harder?
So before we get into his roster decisions, deployment decisions, You raised something about that. Is he the best coach for the environment that you currently have? The system's not working. I think it's very clear to anyone they're not. I'm now coming to the idea that maybe you do bring in a new coach who empowers your team to buy into a simple system, to show what it's like to be a pro. And I'm actually thinking of sort of something Garland had said during After Hours. Garland said that in his role, he's now a veteran. He needs to show these young players what it's like to be a professional, how to work hard. And you and I have said many, many episodes, Connor Garland works hard. Like there's never, I don't think, been a point in time where you and I are like, the ship has sailed on Connor. You know, he's had some rough spells, but his give a F meter has always had F's to give. And to his credit, that's the type of player I think you need to ensure you have on this team if you're going to get younger. What I would like to see, I think, and I said this earlier where I want the competitive. I wonder if the Vancouver Canucks could become a younger team, but play to have sort of a competitive edge. Maybe they're in sort of that mushy middle. I know that that's blasphemy, but still commit to the rebuild. Stay young, continue to find ways to get those picks from other teams who might want to get into the middle, who don't want to be as bad as they are. And get to that point where you suddenly become a good team with a good, capable, young roster with room to grow, cap space to burn, with a good coach. That maybe in that scenario, I could buy in. But in the current world, I worry that a new coach comes in and suddenly the team, simply with a system that they get, becomes successful because this ownership group has shown repeatedly they want those 2 playoff games. And the chance of getting those 2 playoff games is just so strong of an attraction that they can't commit to doing it right, so they can get more in those 2 playoff games.
I do think what's wrong with this team, even in the short term, can't be fixed by a new coach. Like,
this season's shot.
Yeah.
This season's shot. The hole is too deep.
Yeah, and I know you're not saying they turn it around to make the playoffs or anything. But even, like, I just think this team is so broken that I can't imagine a world where ownership are just like, actually, you know what? We're kind of close. Maybe we should.
Okay, I this ownership group, they love those 2 playoff dates.
I mean, just even with where they are right now, and clearly they've given Jim Rutherford the green light to talk about
TikTok videos from former host Matt, who continues to give them hope about being in it to win it, and they're just buying it. I don't know.
Use your game sense, everyone. But yeah, I just think we're too far gone. Like, it's more the concern that they turn it around enough to ruin their draft pick.
Yes, which that I do have concern about. That's fair. Anyhow, let's talk about deployment, roster decisions. So you had shared in Rewind, like Niels Höglander gets scratched. Is that what you want to do when you have a good sort of young player? Shouldn't you be on the ice? I'd suggest that while it sucks that you're scratching players like Niels Höglander, you want to showcase everyone you want to dish out. Like, people are like, they need to scratch Kane. I would wholeheartedly agree normally. I don't want him on this team. But if that hurts the chances of finding him a new team to go to, play the living daylights out of Kane. I hope the Kings come calling. They can have him. Future considerations, done deal.
Yeah, exactly. Bag of pucks, please. But I will say, like, I don't even know if anything but, like, if there's any viable interest. I mean, there's always going to be some dumb executive who wants the team to get stronger and thinks that that's Evander Kane somehow. But
to that point,
considering how
scratch him,
no, I
does
agree.
that not dissuade old hockey culture dude from actually
Yeah.
thinking, oh, maybe he could help me.
But I will say and I would love that to be the case. I just wonder, given how, the recent story that was appearing about how many teams were baffled by Vancouver signing Evander Kane, that I wonder if the ship has sailed on him already. But yeah, I mean, we will see. Yeah, but I just like, I don't know how inserting Archie Baines, who has been fine for where he is in his career, but whether that was
so if it's a showcase, if you're showcasing players to show other executives in the league what these guys can do, that's why I would understand the deployment. I don't know if that's the case. I actually would look at some of this and wonder, is Foote trying to send messages? Like they scratched DeBrusque to send a message.
That somewhat worked. Obviously,
but if you're going to potentially want to trade him now, and again, he's got some control over this.
Yes, although he may be, one of the more likely protected people to move out the door still. But I think that's a good news story on Jake DeBrusque,
that they scratched him and he's turned his game around slightly.
Yeah, that's how I'm spinning it. Pick up the phone, Patrick.
Oh, I am conflicted though. There's questions like, why is P.O. Joseph getting into the game? Well, because if he can find an opportunity elsewhere, that's a guy you dish elsewhere. Looking at the Vancouver Canucks roster, I mean, we've talked about it loosely, but if you were to go back to our earlier episodes, we've only ever really declared there being one untouchable, Quinn Hughes. Well, guess what?
People touched him.
They took him from us, and in fact, he enjoyed it so much he said thank you. He left. He wanted to go. So now when you look across the roster, everyone is available. I hate to see PD go, but I have to appreciate in a rebuild, PD is available for the right deal to be had. I'm not entirely keen on some of the arrivals, Zeev Boom, or Booyam, sorry. I would necessarily say he's untouchable, but
what's the point?
You shouldn't be parting with what has been declared as sort of the future of your blue line. But there's other players who have been suggested as being potentially available. Philip Hronek, who, if you were to listen to his agent, Alan Walsh, is not to be touched by anyone for any reason.
That's for damn sure. Yeah, and I did want to talk about this earlier, but Thomas Strance's article this week on the rebuild or not, which was very interesting. I loved this kind of sidebar point he made just about the idea of Philip Hronek being sort of somewhat touted as the future captain of the Canucks.
That doesn't work.
He doesn't talk to media. He doesn't talk even directly to through the Canucks media, even through house media he doesn't speak. When Canucks put out that video about his leadership, I was like, please don't do it. Please don't make him captain.
So this is the way I view it. If the guy is the leader in the room, does he need a C?
Right.
To me, hold court?
That's a job that the C is a job that comes with responsibility beyond the room, and it's to the fans and to the media. That's part of the job.
We've talked about this actually on past episodes. Tyler Myers, people will laugh when I say throw a C on his jersey. Tyler could speak. He has no issues with it. I think he carries himself in a way that he could truly be a captain. Yeah, we call him the Chaos Giraffe. We tell people he's the best fourth line player we don't know that we have. But for me, with where the Vancouver Canucks are in the current realm of existence, a Tyler Myers makes sense. Don't want to give it to Tyler. You want to give it to, someone who is a quote unquote better player. I don't necessarily believe you can give it to Petey, even though I think Petey has been positioning himself well, but a player like Connor Garland, slap the C on him if you need to, right? There are other players.
Honestly, I'm coming more
before you get to the Philip Hronek.
I think I said no to the idea first of all when you brought up the Tyler Myers thing, but I'm more on board with it because I think I was against a sort of transition captain, but now I'm coming more round to the fact that a transition captain is good because Tyler Myers is, nearing the end of his career rather than beginning. You want someone kind of that isn't going to get ruined by this challenging environment. I don't think Tyler Myers would.
And so I'm old enough to remember that there was a transitional period between Stan Smeel and Trevor Linden. Like Trevor Linden was considered to be the next captain after Stan, but Stan still played for the Vancouver Canucks and no longer had the C on his jersey. I think Dan Quinn might have worn it for a bit. Doug Lidster might have worn it for a bit. Like there were sort of some veteran players who, were never going to be the captain, but we're showing a younger player in Trevor Linden what being a captain meant. Look at Bo Horvat. Say what you want about the dressing room. Say what you want about the Vancouver Canucks. Say what you want about Bo. Bo got what being a captain in Vancouver meant. Who did he learn from? The Sedins. Specifically, if we were to have to pin it on one of them, Hank. But I think Hank and Daniel. Who did, and actually, I think he was around for a bit of Nazi too. You look at all of, I mean,
I wasn't around for Nazi, so yeah.
Okay, well, but I mean, Bo was young enough, so I don't know. But like, Trevor was around the organization, and he might have told playing. Like, this is the thing: is there's been leaders. Say what you want about Mark Messier,
around,
and Naslund has spoken quite highly of how he got to see what Mark did with the media, with the team, led by example. Like, you've had all of this. I'm not knocking Quinn as not having that opportunity. I think Quinn understood the importance of having the C on his jersey. I just don't think he was comfortable with all aspects of it.
Yeah. And honestly, if you want to put Tyler Myers as your public captain and then you call Philip Hronek the captain in the room, if you want to do that, who cares? But he's not.
Yeah.
If a captain, it can't act like he acts with the media. That's just not okay.
And I think he'd understand he couldn't anymore. But now you've got a guy who's not comfortable doing something that they need to be comfortable doing. It does not end well for anyone in that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, if you've got some thoughts on who the next captain of the Vancouver Canucks should be, whether or not, Adam Foote should stick around and what his thoughts on the roster deployment happens to be, or alternatively think Anna and I are completely up a creek without a paddle, the best way to tell us all about it is by joining C4 Discord, discord.io/C4 podcast. Alternatively, you can yell at us on social media. We're on all of them. Anna's 84603. I'm Lightforce. The derivative of what it looks like changes whether you're on X, Blue Sky, Threads, all those. Whereas the podcast, no consistency whatsoever. We're at the C4 Podcast on X. We're at the Real C4 Podcast on Threads, and we're at c4podcast.com on Blue Sky. But Anna, as we look to wrap things up, do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners this week?
It's been a challenging couple weeks, I would say, in terms of global politics, not least hockey and politics, given what happened in the nation's capital with the Stanley Cup champions this week, embarrassing themselves. So, yeah, I would say find the good where you can. Celebrate good where you can, like we talked last week about heated rivalry. So I'm trying to focus on hope for the future, I guess, rather than the tricky present.
That's good advice. I actually wanted to share something that I had shared with my daughter's soccer team earlier today. They had a tough game. It was a close game until it wasn't. 0-0 draw going into the second half, and then the team that we were playing just scored a bunch of goals. And one of the things that really hit me was how the team was playing hard. The group, they're not the most talented out there, but they're some of the hardest working. And it was when they sort of took their foot off the gas there, they started to take it easy. That's when the other team started to capitalize. And so the words that I had used were that, sometimes you need to understand that hard work beats talent, but talent doesn't always work hard. And it was probably lost on the girls. They're 8. But it's something I truly believe in. And I think about like what we've seen with the teams that we're covering here within the Goldeneyes and with the Canucks. You and I have made it very clear. We love hard work. That's what we want. We want wins. We want the teams to succeed. But when it's not, when we see hard work, we buy into that. We've also seen, case in point, some former players who departed us, who are extremely talented, have not always worked hard, and we've called them on it. So my advice to you, hard work can beat talent, but talent doesn't always work hard.
Both very profound from us. We don't always go profound, but we're smart this week.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, you're always smart. Me, it's a stretch. I got good days. I got some not good days. I'm an old man. It's comes with the territory, I think. If you reach this point of the show and you want to celebrate our, smart, insightful comments and say, you know what, they deserve a pint, you can actually throw some money our way to help do just that. If you go to buymeacoffee.com/C4podcast, buy me a coffee, otherwise known as
Buy me a pint.
You can throw a few bucks our way to truly buy us a pint or two. But if you love supporting the show and want to help pay the bills, you can actually contribute on a recurring basis, either monthly or annually. And in doing so, that helps pay for our hosting, the website, the domain, stuff like that. And in turn, it just ensures that Ann and I can continue to record the show and remain the longest running hockey podcast here in Vancouver. Science totally backs that up.
Streaks. There you go.
I have tried to determine if there's any other hockey podcasts in Vancouver that could lay claim, and I'm pretty confident there are none. There are some that can say us they've been recording forever, but the only one that was close stopped. So
we win.
Exactly. But yeah. At this point of the show, we encourage you to check out our back catalog if you haven't done so already. C4podcast.com. The vast majority of the episodes are there. You can find us on all your podcast applications. And as we said at the top of the show, next week, we're going to be joined by a special guest who you'll have to tune in to find out. So behind half of Anna, myself, Chris, and Craig, we out.